Ni hao yang, hello, I am the Dark Fae, and welcome back to Confessions of a First-Time Dungeon Master. As always, if you missed this last session, I'll put a link to it up in the corner for you over here, right over by Fancy Pusheen. You can go check it out, come catch up on what you missed, and then come back here to find out what happened next. We are now on session 50. I've DM'd 50 sessions. Am I still first-time Dungeon Master? But anyways, here we go. Okay, so this session started with them sort of in this tunnel approaching the cavern that they have been a bit fixated on trying to get through this ice wall. After a bit of discussion and some not very good stealthing, the salamanders, the frost salamanders that are kind of currently huddled around this frostworm corpse and eating the body, do end up noticing them. A little fuzzy on the order of operations, but eventually, basically, Bever and their rogue casts rope trick, and they all clamber up into the extra dimensional space. Puck hangs out and on the rope, kind of on the outside. And so their plan is to summon the Balgara to smash through the ice wall, which is a decent plan since it's bigger. It can kind of just keep going for a certain amount of time. And honestly, if there weren't enemies already in the chamber, I would probably not, have them roll attacks on the wall every single time, but more like just go based off of duration and then roll for whether or not creatures that live within these tunnels hear the noise or not, since the shaking and the bashing, things with tremor sense can maybe start to get a feel that something foreign, something doesn't belong. But there are 3 salamanders right next to the area of the wall that they were working on. So it's a little bit weird because I feel kind of bad sometimes when I'm, as the DM, kind of sitting there listening to them plan things out, when in my head I'm like, that's not gonna work the way you think it does. Maybe it will, but I mean, you can certainly try. So anyways, Puck summons the Balgara literally right next to or right behind one of the salamanders. I mean, a large ape-like creature just dropped down in the middle of them while they're having a meal. New enemy territorial about their food and their scavenged corpse. They're gonna attack. And with 3 of them, I mean, the Balgara doesn't really stand a chance. Especially when it's just punching a wall. It gets a round or 2 in before the salamanders end up killing it, because they have frost breath and 3 attacks each and can do quite a bit of damage. So now they're not sure whether or not they've actually punched through the wall yet, and the wall is several feet thick still. They've gotten a pretty good indent in it, but again, it's only a certain size. Maybe I should have referenced the ice wall spell or something for this to better judge when the wall would be broken. But it's still feet of ice that they're trying to get through. So they have a divot that they probably couldn't get through. It would take more time and more energy to blast through than 5 attacks. So eventually they throw some attacks out of the rope trick plane. The salamanders do end up noticing them, but they're pretty high up, and so they can't really they're like out of reach for the salamanders. Beverin tries a thing with silent image where he like makes an illusory puck to go and run over towards the wall to maybe lure the salamanders to escape. Or lure the salamanders away so then they can escape the other direction. But the salamanders are literally gathered now at like the bottom of the rope. So if he has the illusory puck climb down the rope, he's literally like in the center of them and they can attack. Which I had him roll like I think like Arcana or something versus like their Dex to see if like they're quick enough. If he can if he could get the illusion past them quick enough before they could reach it. 2 succeeded, 1 failed, so 1 was like didn't notice. But 2 were able to kind of like bite at the illusion before getting pulled away that far, and then like after biting through it, they were able to kind of deduce that it's no longer an illusion. So eventually, I think the way that they lured the salamanders away was they just waited it out. Honestly, they just like spent 30 minutes up like inside the road trick and waited for the salamanders to lose interest, which eventually they did. They went back to their meal, kept on eating, and I mean they're large carnivorous creatures. Eventually they eat their fill and fall asleep. And now the party doesn't really have a direction to go up. Like they're still kind of following Basil's like mental tingle, which has been leading them like directly through the northern, well, technically on the map it would be the western wall. And so they end up deciding that they're gonna make their way back out of the tunnels, take a long rest outside of the tunnel so that they're not attacked or ambushed by things inside, and try again. So that is what they do, and I mean, I don't really have a way to keep them there, or, well, I do, but it feels a bit like cheatsy or railroady for me to be like, oh, and there's a cave-in. Like, I don't think that makes sense. So, without too much trouble, they're able to make it back out of the caverns. It takes like a couple hours for them to get out. They meet up with Merrigan again, who they at first think is missing, but he has made like a little shelter for himself out of like the snow and the wind, and taken the large Warforged corpse with him. So they're all kind of have a nice little shelter to rest in before trying again the next day. They do send some messages. Basil, I believe, contacts the Umbra Lord and mentions that they've found the Warforged, they've completed the quest, and like the body will be available for pickup. And the Umbra Lord says that they can make arrangements to return the Warforged home. They also contact Ferne and kind of give her an update. She also updates them that the resurrection ritual, which I did roll for actually, was successful. And so Valkyrie is kind of sleeping, resting, and sleeping off the effects, because with Raised Dead, you do get a -4 penalty to abilities, saves, and attacks. So it'll take some time to recover, but she should be recovered once they return. And and this is kind of a weird thing, because ordinarily with like an orb arc, it would potentially be like a milestone for them to level up. But Valkyrie's not here with them, and Beverin's kind of a temporary character. And I don't think Valkyrie should level up because like it's not her there, it's Beverin instead. So I'm kind of wondering, like, should it be XP or a milestone based off of like the player? Or or the character. And I think the character makes more sense. And this was like originally a resurrection side quest anyway that ended up turning into like, well, we're here already, so let's do it. So that will be a thing, I guess, for me to figure out. But they also contact Captain Nyrabrax from Zinaisk and mentioned that they've, found the culprit and will be returning to Reedon Post if they can like arrange like a courier to meet them so that they can exchange items. And Nyrabrax does mention a potential reward if like the people he sends are able to kind of confirm that the culprit who destroyed a lot of their city is in fact dealt with, as well as exchange the magic items that they had switched for the Boots of the Winterlands. So, and that will be in about 5 days or so, 4 or 5 days. One thing that they also do, Umric casts Speak with Dead on the Warforged Titan, and for a while I was like considering whether or not it would work if it like had a spirit or something that would come back that was able to come back, or if because they're kind of sentience or awakened due to some sort of magical bond between it and some other entity, if due to that it wouldn't really be able to, or if it honestly had any language at all, since in like the Warforged Titan stat block it actually doesn't have any languages. But I basically ruled it that there was sort of a tenuous spirit that returned, and the questions that Umric asked kind of related to how, like if it knew at all what had possessed him, which it didn't, if the Warforged, like what the Warforged plan was for going into the tunnel, or like for finding its way to the orb, to which it just replies, followed. Since, unbeknownst to them, it has been receiving directions, maybe a bit more precise than what Basil is currently getting, but it has just been blindly kind of following these directives. And because this Warforged is like, they don't really know this, but it's not really aware while it was kind of doing all of these things. So I was kind of keeping it very cryptic, or like flat out that it didn't know the answer to kind of their questions as to like its motivations, like was it after the orb or something like that. The last question they ask is whether or not like it wants its body to be left here or to be returned to Aleth Malar. The undead spirit wouldn't really have an opinion, but basically it just says that Aleth Malar is my home because that is what it knows. So unfortunately not able to glean terribly much. I mean, I think they can definitely infer some things, that like it was following some sort of order or directive from an unknown outside source that it was not aware of, to go into these caves and probably after an orb. But yeah, so I think that's the last thing that they do after for the evening. They go ahead and take their long rest here in this shelter. Not too much trouble from any outside creatures or environmental effects. I do still have them roll a Constitution saving throw with advantage because of the shelter and tiny hut. Luckily, this time Basil does succeed, so he does not go to 3 points of exhaustion and is now back down to 1. And then a couple of people had to drop off early, so with a bit of preparation, some planning, kind of what they want to do. I think they're going to try for the wall again. And like, I want to give them this opportunity, but the fact that like these carnivores and like predators have already, or scavengers I guess, have already come across this creature, like they wouldn't leave food so easily, so they might have to fight these salamanders off if they want to go through the wall. Or, I mean, there's multiple ways to, probably easier ways to get to where they need to go if they just find the right path. So, we'll see what they do. We kind of ended it with them entering the caves one more time, so that it's kind of a definite thing that they're going into the caves, and we'll be starting this kind of cavern tunnel crawl one more time. So it's going to be take 2, and I'm interested to see what they want to do this time. If they want to try a different route, or if they're gonna go back at it and try to approach this ice wall differently. I would say they're maybe halfway through, but again, small opening, big people. So anyway, that is session 50. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for notifications when I put out new videos. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!